everyone, and welcome to the virtual breakfast sessions. I'm Larry Sashin, and today we put together a great panel to discuss turning the tables, strategies to survive the dining downturn. But before we do that, let's thank the man who's paying the bills today, Mr. Ed Flanagan and the Era Group. Hey, you work very, very hard for your money. And a wise man once told me, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. So if you're interested in keeping that hard-earned money, call Ed Flanagan and the ERA Group, and they'll pick through all your invoices and your contracts to make sure you're getting exactly what you paid for. So back to the show. Let's go around the room first and say hello to the people. Juliana, would you tell everybody who you are and what you do?
Yes. Hi, everybody. I'm Juliana. I'm in New York City, and I'm a director of cost management for Chef Daniel Boulud, Dinex Group.
Thank you, Juliana. Michael.
Hello. I'm Michael Ross, owner and founder of MKR Management Services. We are a fractional CFO firm supporting small to mid-size hospitality entities.
Okay. Next to last but not least, Ed Flanagan.
Yeah, thanks, Larry. Ed Flanagan. I'm a national practice partner for the ERA Group. We're an international cost management consultancy, and we help our clients make sure they're not overspending in over 50 different expense areas.
Okay. And Mr. Clashman.
Good morning, Fred Clashman, editor and publisher, Total Food Service.
Back to our subject, strategies to fight the dining downturn. In February of 2025, bar and restaurant tickets were down 1.5%. In February, March, and April, there was a downturn of 8.5%. And in May, it's 0.9%. How long can restaurants live with this? And what can they do to turn the tables? Juliana, what is going on at Daniel Boulud? How are you fighting these things?
Yeah. So over here, we do have a very diverse portfolio, between fast casual, fine dining, catering, and different revenue streams, which I think is a super helpful tool to manage times like this. I think we're in an industry where we're always fighting and struggling for that bottom line. Like this is no news for anybody that works in this industry. We're always hustling to make money. So I think we're seeing a lot of impact in one of our areas, but luckily because we have such a diverse revenue stream, we can kind of like compensate with different ways of compensating with what's happening right now. But we're feeling, as I said, I think it's just like the little tip of the iceberg. We're starting to see a little bit. We're getting to the summertime, which is a little bit tough for New York City. Restaurants usually are very slow this time of the year. So we're already using all of our cost reduction strategies for the next 2 months, hoping it's going to be normal, slow, but we'll see. We'll see what happens in September and how this trend goes.
Michael, how are you advising your clients to prepare and to right the ship?
Good question, Larry. I mean, there are a couple things I'd say. There's a lot I could spend 45 minutes talking about, but a couple of key areas is liquidity is survival. So cash management is critical. So implementing a cash forecast, a cash flow forecast to help, challenging every line, being prepared to see what your ups and downs are, managing that closely is going to be critical. Looking at your expense spend, obviously, is going to be critical. Looking at where you can cut back, where you can manage more carefully, looking at opportunities to renegotiate. We've worked with vendors for terms, looking at rent, looking at different opportunities. The last one I would mention, because I don't want to steal some of the thunder, I know some of my other colleagues will be touching on, but is also going to be around the right metrics. It's important to have good key financial metrics to understand what's happening. So looking at your prime cost, your inventory, and your labor, are you looking at the right metrics to manage that so you can plan for, the ups and downs of your business and you can easily navigate around that, managing, your cash reserve, making sure that you have a cash reserve for those emergency situations. So preparing for that, working with them to build that up by, managing several areas are some of the key areas that I advise my clients to focus on.
Let me ask you a question. Do you use this in your practice? When we had a consulting company for small to medium-sized businesses, we used to use something called a SWOT and then a scorecard.
Yeah.
Can you explain that? and how that benefits the small to medium-sized operator?
Sure. So, I mean, a SWOT, looking at your strength, the weaknesses, opportunities, is a way to really look at analyzing your business in a deep dive way, right? So what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? You have to first understand what they are. So a lot of owner operators are not really digging deep into the data to understand really what is driving their revenues. Are they looking at those margins that are helping, their sales, those items on their menu that have a better profit margin? Are they managing the more costly items on their menu that use up a lot of cost of goods? Looking at the opportunities, looking at where you can, seek opportunities to grow your business in this environment. So, while we're not looking to grow, but why not look at some of the distressed competitors who are maybe it creates an opportunity for you to acquire them and expand your business when you wouldn't have done that in a upturn market. So it's really, yes, I work with them to do a deep dive into their business outside of just their P&L, their balance sheet, looking at the analytics and how to look at their business in a way that is much more strategic thinking, which is what a SWOT really focuses on.
All right. So Julianne, I have a question for you. The three things that pop in my head is, do we need to be serving a bread basket? Do we need to be using tablecloths? Can we go to a less expensive, higher value cut of meat? Where do those things fit? The aesthetics of the presentation versus what we're trying to get done on the bottom line.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want to interfere on the client experience, I want to say, but you can use a very good linen on your top tablecloth, and then on your second one, and everything else can be a less expensive one. There's ways you can kind of maintain the aesthetics, because if you uphold a certain name, or if you don't want to affect that experience, right? You want to do everything you can on the back end so your client doesn't feel anything, which is all about what this industry does. Like, this is all we do all day, just like we hustle on the back so the client doesn't feel anything. So absolutely, switching your steak or making some sort of like a special menu or a lunch menu that can have a much cheaper cut. It's an option that, we explore all the time. The linen, there are ways you can drive the customer and the way you write the menu so they can, always pick that most profitable item. Going back to what Michael said, doing that deep dive on your profitable menu items is super important, because you do have the power to kind of drive that customer to pick the wine that you want, or to pick the appetizer that's better for the kitchen and everything. So there's a lot of creativity that's just not how you prepare the dish. It's just how you maintain that whole orchestra to make it happen to the client. And it is something that it's a day-to-day. It's not because we're going through this moment right now. I think we go through this as an industry. Like, we're always trying to cut costs. We're always trying to make that experience exceptional, but also making sure we have that profit on the bottom line. And it's about, like, there's the corporate team, and there's also the operations team. As Larry said in the beginning, just going to the team and like listening what's going on there, like getting their suggestions, because they're actually your eyes and feet on the floor. So they can definitely give you a lot of like advice on cost cuttings that you're not seeing in the numbers sometimes. So I think there's the numbers piece, and there's always the connection and the people and how your staff and your team is dealing with the clients.
Ed, you and I have talked about linen a whole bunch. Where do some of the opportunities lie that you see?
Well, Larry, the one example we gave you with the linen project, we ended up saving 65%. So they had one of our clients had linen services by one of the linen companies, and every year they raised prices 6.1%. So after 10 years, they were so far above the market, we negotiated with them and 3 other linen providers, and the current supplier came back with 65% savings. The client was so mad that they've been getting screwed all this time. They said, even though it's the best savings, we'd rather go with the second best opportunity.
And what I'm trying to distinguish is the difference between eliminating linen and renegotiating linen.
Right.
Let's not confuse the two things.
Right. And it's you mentioned the bread basket. Most places, the truth of the matter is if you put a basket of bread on table, whether it be a 3 slices or a whole loaf of bread, most times if there's a man there, all the bread is eaten. But if you have someone come over and say, would you like some bread? And they put 1 slice of bread and some butter on the plate, he'll eat all that's in front of him again, and may not be ready, and it may not ask for one. So there's a savings there. But I want to go back to something that Michael and I were talking about, the SWOT. And Bob, unmute yourself at the same time. The SWOT is wonderful, but how often do you do a SWOT?
Well, a SWOT, for those that are wondering what that is, an analysis of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Just doing that, so many businesses just do that once a year, once every 2 years, and it sits on a shelf and does no good whatsoever. If you do some sort of analysis like that, you really have to come up with an addition to it. Strengths, how do we take advantage of these strengths? Weaknesses, how do we mitigate those weaknesses? Opportunities, how do we take advantage of threats? How do we stop those threats from damaging us? It makes sense to do that, to come up with those action points on a regular basis. And quite frankly, most businesses that I work with, we urge them to develop what you might call sprints. What are the mitigation actions or take advantage actions they're going to do on a short-term basis? Sometimes as short as a week at a time, weekly sprints. Sometimes it's a month. Sometimes just for a quarter. And what are those sprints? Well, they can be anything at all that affects your business. It can be reducing costs, changing, as you guys are talking about, changing the presentation, the way things are presented, changing from linen to whatever it is. But if you don't have sprints, you'll just have this big goal in mind or something. You'll never get to it, because it's like waking up in the morning and thinking that the entire world is my territory. I can sell and do anything in the entire world. You'll never get anything done because you have no specific target to work towards. So I think that's how a SWOT analysis is best used.
All right, so give us an example. So Michael or Bob, give us an example of something that would come out of a SWOT report that an operator could use. What's an example?
Okay, so let's say weaknesses. My client base, my customer base is a little skewing older. They're on the older side, and for whatever reason, they're just skewed older. And we see the need or market availability for younger people to come in and so forth. So the quest would be, how do we attract a younger audience, a younger client base, patron base? So that, you guys are all in the business. You know how to do that. You add young music. You change the menu. You change the experience for them. It's probably more about experience than anything else. And you do that on a short-term basis. You don't just say, "Hey, we're going to add music sometime this year." You say, by the end of this month, we want to have contacted 4 potential whatever folk singers or easy jazz musicians, book some dates with them, and launch that within the next 2 or 3 months. You pick specific things and make it happen.
Thank you.
I would add, and to Robert, I agree with that. So the other aspect of it is, once you identify your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, you can take one, but it's more, you have to not only just identify it, you got to be able to track it and track the progress, right?
Absolutely.
So one of the things I do is create a dashboard. So you work to identify what the opportunities are, what the threats are, so forth, in a way with, how do you know it? You're going to have data that supports it, or some way to track that. Are you improving on it? Are you closing out the threat? Are you achieving the opportunity? If you have an opportunity where my average check size is too small, and I really feel I could probably increase my average check size, you come up with a plan. Well, it's great to come up with a plan, but the other aspect is tracking it and monitoring it to see the progress, to make sure whatever your solutions are, it's working. So, I'd work with my clients to monitor that. And then, some things are working, let's keep at it. Maybe our approach didn't work, our metrics aren't supporting it. All right, let's find a new solution and track that. So I think tracking it is the other aspect.
Right. No, absolutely right. You got to tweak it. And I'm a really big fan of short-term sprints, because when you're on a course, think of a sailboat or something, and you're going in a direction. If you go slightly off course for a long period of time without correction, the correction is big to get back. If you check regularly and go slightly off course on a frequent check, the correction's not that big and you don't lose that much. So I'm completely agree with what you're saying.
I guess you're called in when people aren't doing that. How do you help right the ship?
Is that for me, Larry?
Yeah, you're Ed. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. One of the things we try to do is, a lot of our clients aren't actually looking at their menu and what the profit margin is on each item that they're selling. If they have have seafood, what's the profit margin on that seafood dish? If they have a steak, if they have pasta. So what's happening is we help them and find out sometimes they're losing money on things that they're selling. So we try to right to ship in that case and get them to price things accordingly, and then look and see where people are buying. If they're buying a very profitable dish, put a special out there so they buy more of that. So that's a good way of looking, how to control cost and, get your revenue up.
All right. So we've covered the costs of items. We've covered basically we're looking at costs. What about outreach? Usually people panic and the first thing they do is cancel marketing, and that turns the lights off in your business. How are you looking for better ways, better avenues, and what kind of things are you using to get the story out, to get those people that are still spending money to come to your place? Juliana.
Yeah, hot seat, I know. I think technology in this piece like really helps us better track our clientele. I am a big fan of course, building the relationship between that GM, the manager, whoever is hosting your client. But there's just so much that technology can do for us nowadays in terms of tracking, how often this person comes in, what dishes they like, what kind of day of the week it's preferred for them to come. And then you start like doing a little bit of a more like targeted marketing with really like very low cost, talking about a newsletter, an email, things that can be very cheap nowadays that you can still, I think sometimes there's just so many options that people are just like, what restaurants do I go? There's just so much out there, especially here in New York City. But if I get an email saying, hey, this is, an email from restaurant X, Y, and Z, and there's a special dish coming in. Oh, now that email is like on my mind, so I can remember next time I go out for dinner. So I think there's kind of like cheaper and easier ways nowadays. This is the one piece that technology, in my opinion, really helps our industry, just being a little bit more intentional with our marketing.
Larry, the other thing is, we grew up with radio, television, and print. You'd put an ad in New York Magazine. There were things that were, sort of no-brain execution that cost money. There's so much clutter now. I don't even know. It's become incredibly complicated.
Yeah.
No, there isn't a simple marketing answer anymore.
No, there isn't. But the truth of the matter is, if you're not using your mailing list, you're losing a big, people, that little card on the table, get a free dessert if you give us your email. That is probably the cheapest way to get a name, is do something like that. You got a special dessert that you hand out. If people do that.
The whole world is guilty of looking for a new customer when there's an existing customer that can be cultivated.
Right.
I think
who is the best customer to reach than the one that just had a good meal?
Right. Like leveraging your loyalty programs for your existing clients. It's about generating those repeat clients because they come, they spend. Right. You want to foster them to be that repeat customer, and that's an important metric to be able to track as well, right? Because it solidifies sort of a base, and then you focus on the new areas to grow on.
And they're all your potential wedding, bar mitzvah, holiday party. They're all your potential for a truly profitable piece of your business.
The catering, the retail, other aspects, other revenue streams like Juliana mentioned.
Yeah, but we have to remember that you have one bar mitzvah, or you have one or two weddings in your life. But you go out. There's 7 days a week, and how do you get people in on a Tuesday? How do you do these things? The creative things.
I have a question for Juliana. Juliana, you work for one of the true celebrities in our industry. What are you able to do to brand around him in order to drive traffic when you need it?
Everything. Everything. Luckily, Chef Daniel is very present and very much interested in doing everything that we propose him to do. So he will be present in all of our restaurants almost every day. People really love to see that presence. We're still in an industry of very much of a human connection. So whenever he is on the floor, people love that. So and he's up to do all of that. He does a lot of social media too, which is great. Like he's very much into that. And we explore a lot of also partnership with brands with using his name. So, we'll do partnership with Evian, with water, with brands that can connect with what he has built. world. So through that, I think we still get a lot of attention because he is very much alive. He's very much present. I think there's also a limit to what you can grow and still be able to do that. And I think he does that really well. He preserves his name to the extent that he can be present. Like we have a lot of different restaurants in Las Vegas that carries his name, but we don't really operate. The ones that we truly operate, he's there very, very much present every day. And I've worked in other groups before and I don't see that. He's truly like what he carries truly something that I see him deliver every day. And he's also very welcome to like as you guys know, new chefs, everybody that wants to work with him. The amount of like J1s and people that actually come in that we welcome as new talent into our group is really, really remarkable. So I think he just has that legacy and he lives truly to it. It's not just advertising.
Thank you. You know what? When I spoke to you the other day, I said this is a 5-minute, 30-minute operation.
Yeah.
We're near that time. So once again, I want to thank the ERA Group, and Ed Flanagan for paying the bills today. You know, like I always say, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. And if you want to keep more of what you're spending, give Ed Flanagan and the ERA Group a call and they will be there to help. So let's go around the room and just give that one little tidbit, that one idea that you have that people can help them turn the tables. Juliana.
One little tip definitely will be check your numbers, keep up with your P&Ls, look at them every week, look at your prime costs every week. So you're aware. Awareness is the first step. So I'll say that.
Okay, thank you, Juliana. Michael.
I think I'll add on Juliana, who's stealing my financial thunder. But I think it's the other aspect is I would advise don't be afraid of the analytics. There's a lot of data out there. The technology that exists now with the POS systems, the inventory systems, payroll systems, there's so much data that the ability to dig in there, and if you need help, there's resources that can help you, but there's a lot of data that can help you make the right decision. Don't be afraid to dig deep.
And that was a perfect segue to go to Mr. Ed Flanagan.
Yes, Larry, I used to work with a very old Italian gentleman years ago, and his saying was, it's not what you expect, it's what you inspect. And the key here is those invoices that are coming in, a lot of times they don't tie into the contract. So you need to inspect them and make sure they're adhering to the contract, because if the suppliers know you're not looking, they're going to take advantage of it.
And Mr. Clashman.
Well, I think this is about low-hanging fruit. Instead of worrying about some tourist from some other country that used to come here and walk into your restaurant, reestablish that you have the right CRM, reestablish that you're working with people like Michael Ross and Ed, and refocus on what you can accomplish in the short term with a simple execution of technology and some common sense.
Yeah, Bob, leave one little tidbit.
Form your goals around taking advantage of your strengths, mitigating your weaknesses, track them and tweak regularly on a short-term basis.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you, whoever you are listening to us, wherever you are. This has been such a fast session. We could go on for 2 hours, but maybe we will go on again another time. But meanwhile, we're back next week, and we're going to be talking about GPL1s. Still not used to it myself. Ozempic and drugs like that, and how they're affecting the restaurant business. Who ever thought that could happen? So, folks, hope to see you next week. But until then, only 2 more things to say. Everyone, stay positive, test negative, and I'll see you next week. Bye now.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.